This last observation returns me at last to my earlier contention.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Actuali podcast. I almost said Actualization Station. I've been uploading old episodes of the podcast lately, guys, and you can look for those here on YouTube now. Old episodes that were formerly only audio casts are now available here as well. YouTube has become the #1 podcast location on the planet, surprisingly, even surpassing Spotify. But we are everywhere podcasts can be found, and we are live streaming today. Facebook, X, Twitch, Rumble, and here on YouTube. Feel free to share your thoughts and questions. It's Meaning Making 101, our weekly live stream series where we try to make sense of this world together. We are going to continue our consideration of how we may change this world from the inside out and actualize in the way of Christ. With the help of David Bentley Hart, a very well-studied theologian who has quite a profound way of expressing the way of Christ in our modern world. We're in the midst of this multi-part series now. This is part 6, going through David Bentley Hart's essay, Christ and Nothing. And we encourage you guys to look up that essay yourselves if you find this at all intriguing. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy what's happening here, and share with your friends and family. And once again, if you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to throw them down in the chat. We are monitoring, and we're excited to see what you all think as well. And that reminds me, I still really like what Rumble is doing in the world right now. I mean, they're actually creating a place for free speech in video content media. And thank God for X as well, actually being the last place where you can have free speech in the social media spectrum.
Oh, now there's
even if you disagree with all the politics involved,
Grokpedia,
and all got to be able to talk if we're going to figure these things out. Because speech is the last resort prior to violence.
Did you hear about the Grokpedia?
I like that idea too.
And all the Wikipedia people are freaking out.
And I like community notes. I think that should be instituted in Facebook and YouTube everywhere. I really like the way community notes
They're not going
works.
to, though.
Of course not.
Because they'll lose a lot of people that are like, what is this telling me I'm wrong?
Can't have free-thinking, independently minded individuals. You need everybody to be part of this or that tribes that you can easily pit them against one another.
Well, then there's user-based issues, with Blue Sky. The people there aren't going to like if, people can community note them and say, actually.
Right.
So and then in Facebook, and I'm sorry, this is going to sound disparaging towards old people, but it's mostly old people, and old people don't like being told that they're wrong about something either. Not all
you get very
old
sick.
people.
The longer you've held on to an idea and you've become identified with that idea, it becomes part of your self-identity, the more attached you are to that idea. But if you're okay with the idea of uncertainty, if you can get comfortable with that, you find, I think, an immense freedom there. We don't have to be certain about everything. It's good to kind of leave a little bit of room open. You can have levels of certainty, but when we close ourselves off with our 100% certainty that we're right about anything, we close ourselves off, of course, to new information. We don't get to upgrade that idea.
And hopefully that's something that can be trained. So if we start figuring it out and teaching the young people to maintain that open to uncertainty and not being so, ossified into your belief structure, and you keep practicing this as you get older, then you'll never be taken by surprise by things, and you'll actually be able to adapt in this everly increasing speed of information world that we live in. We're no longer the world of the steam engine. Well, we kind of still are, because all of our power is still made through steam one way or another. But we're no longer the world of the steam engine and manufacturing and the printing press. We're in the world of pure as unadulterated as you get information. Everything's on the internet. You just have to find it. But also everything's on the internet, so there's hazards on the internet as well.
Be mindful.
Oh, yeah, and particularly with AI, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. With how good AI is getting with the video and making stuff, it's going to be to the point where it's going to make it a lot harder to figure out what is true just by video as well. I'm not saying impossible, because there are ways that you can check things. One thing is make sure that you have a lot of sources that you pull from your information, because it's hard to dupe everybody. You can dupe most people, but it's hard to dupe everybody, right?
Yes.
Because I've been seeing a lot of these, oh, look, all these UFOs and all this other stuff, and the ones that aren't fishing lights in the water or something like that, or something else like a balloon or just an aircraft or a drone. Most they're really high def, and it's like, look, it's obviously there. It's like if you're seeing UFOs in high definition, it's AI at this point. And what is it? The spheres, the bogus spheres. Which if you've seen the Boogosphere, it's a like a silver sphere with this, these shapes carved onto it, and they're saying it's old, but if you look at it, it's actually like a liquid rocket fuel sphere tank that's been carved into. And now I've been seeing the AIs where it's like, look, there's 3 of them floating over this building. I'm like, it's really easy to AI spheres. But yeah, so keep your sources open and wide. Stop participating in people that willfully lie to you,
right?
As far as media goes. Now, getting things wrong, there's a bit of that you can forgive, but yet again, if they're consistently wrong all the time, then like, why are you using them as a source?
Yeah.
So, yeah, the world's getting faster. It's getting harder. I feel bad for the old people. As far as they don't want to hear nothing. They don't want the community notes to tell them they're wrong. They don't want none of that. I don't know how many of them we can save from it. So it's just going to kind of be like, okay, grandpa. Remember the trope of old people would be like, oh, old racist grandma. There's nothing you can do except pat her on the knee. Well, now it's old, Democrat grandpa.
Yeah.
I hate to say it like that, but well, we've always voted for him. It's like, yes, but they suck now.
Yeah. Racism went back to the Democratic Party.
And when I'm old, the Republicans will go back to sucking. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so for whatever reason, probably because I started it after the fact, we're not live on Rumble. I'm going to have to upload this after the fact, but we'll get it rocking. So, where we left off last time, let me bring up my notes here. We're at a really exciting part of this essay. And David Bentley Hart had just broken down how Christianity took the best parts of ancient philosophy, like Plato's idea of the good or Aristotle's ideas about reality, and made them better by fitting them into a new vision of the world created by a loving God. Totally new idea, a completely perfectly loving God instead of the very flippant desires of the previous gods.
Yeah.
And this left the old pagan temples empty, their ideas absorbed into Christianity's bigger story. So Christianity took everything under its umbrella, and that sets us up for the very last paragraph that we heard last episode, which was especially profound. So we're going to go ahead and jump back in.
Real quick.
Yeah, go
just
ahead.
On that last part of like absorbing the pagan identities into itself. I watched an interesting, whatever you call him, guy talking about something, not a podcast, but just a video of the Green Man. And why in Europe you see the Green Man on all the churches and everything, and not just hidden away, stashed away like you would not on the periphery.
Oh, like the guy's face who's made of leaves.
Yeah. The pagan forest father symbol.
Yeah, like an old druidic symbol.
Yeah, so they did that, and the explanation was actually pretty good. It's because the things that this figure embodied were very I won't say similar, but similar enough to Christ. The Green Man is, the death and the rebirth of the seasons, and other things. But it was close enough that they could adapt it within their churches and absorb the peoples of those beliefs into their churches without having to force them with the sword. And it also could be that there was a bunch of Masons that were still a little bit pagan that were being snarky and putting it in there, but I don't really think that. Because, Christianity did have its violent times and its violent spreadings, but it also spread through just, absorption.
Yeah, and that's how many ancient religions around the world.
Yeah.
Was it the Mayan or the Incan? I'm trying to look that up right now. Yeah, there it is. The Inca religion incorporated deities from earlier Andean cultures by integrating them into their own pantheon, while often elevating the status of their primary gods, particularly Inti, the sun god. The Inca did not impose a single rigid religious system, but instead allowed conquered peoples to retain their local deities and rituals, provided they also worship the Inca's main gods, such as Inti, Pachamama, Mother Earth, and the Apus mountain spirits. This syncretic approach helped maintain stability and prevent revolt as the empire expanded. For For example, Pachamama, the goddess worshipped long before the rise of the Inca, was incorporated into the Inca religion, but placed below so on and so forth. So you get the idea of how peoples will take old god ideas, tribes will conquer other tribes, they become incorporated into a new religious motif, and it will slowly morph into like Christianity.
Well, sure, because we, like as we have evolved, we worship, or the things that we worship are things in this world, or
and our ideas compete.
And then, well, ideas
just like
too,
gods
because
competed, and the best traits are all get incorporated into the new god, and the old traits kind of just become the chaff.
Well, every pagan religion has some sort of fertility god, usually female, but not always. Has some sort of like sun type god, like usually the most powerful god, or some type of mountain god if you live by volcanoes. Or something, and they all have different attributes to them that are pretty much the same. They're just called different things and worshiped differently. So as we evolved to understand the nature of God, so do our gods, until eventually God
becomes transcendent of all ideas.
Yeah. And I'm not saying we make God. It's more like our understanding of what that is becomes clearer as we spiritually evolve as a species. Hopefully clearer. I'm sure there's quite a few setbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're in the midst of recapitulating our idea of God as we speak.
Yeah.
It's a very important process for us as a species, and it's a hard thing to go through. Like we were saying before, people get very attached to their ideas and their beliefs. But at the bottom of it, man, there are some tried and true revelations that humanity has brought together and incorporated into these shared systems of moral and the teaching of morality and the teaching of virtue. So let's go ahead and jump back into Christ and Nothing with David Bentley Hart. Here we go, fam. We're jumping. This will pick us up from where we were last episode.
This last observation returns me at last to my earlier contention that Christianity assisted in bringing the nihilism of modernity to pass. The command to have no other God but him whom Christ revealed was never for Christians simply an invitation to forsake an old cult for a new, but was an announcement that the shape of the world had changed, from the depths of hell to the heaven of heavens, and all nations were called to submit to Jesus as Lord. In the great transvaluation that followed, there was no sphere of social, religious, or intellectual life that the Church did not claim for itself. Much was abolished, and much of the grandeur and beauty of antiquity was preserved in a radically altered form. And Christian civilization, with its new synthesis and new creativity, was born.
Okay.
But what is the...
So that is where we left off last episode. To sum that up, by rejecting other gods, Christianity reshaped every part of human life, society, religion, and thought. But when Christianity fades, the beauty and wisdom it preserved also vanishes, leaving only nihilism in its wake, a culture obsessed with individual will and nothing deeper. That's where we find ourselves now.
And a bunch of creatures not wise enough to, form a new religion, because there's this idea that,
It took us thousands of years to develop the current one that we're still living.
You could argue that religions aren't necessarily man-made in the sense of like manufactured, like you would call that like a cult, right? Whereas religions are grown.
And they bubble up.
And they evolve over time, because Christianity is an evolution of Judaism. It's not just somewhere out of nowhere, these new rules that are going to be perfect.
Like
it's
Messianic Judaism.
A very long time, like, Jews were Jews for a very long time. Well, Jews were Jews for a long time before Christians, and then there was something else that was evolving into Jews. Before that.
Yes.
Out of paganism into monotheism, Judaism.
The transcendent source God started to become realized and expressed. This was a wholly new idea, perfected in Christianity with the person of Christ. Who kind of solves the whole thing.
Well, it's in my mind, it's what Judaism was leading up to, was for that moment.
It gives us the perfect example of an ultimate way of being as well, like the highest level human that we could possibly emulate. That story has been written, and we have not come up with a better idea of a quote unquote perfect human since, because I think they did it. And
Well, and the idea of a perfect God as well. You know, you could take like, you know, the old like Greek and Roman gods, they were fickle, they were not imperfect. But now we have this perfect God who is so perfect that he would sacrifice not just himself, but his son at the same time as the same person for us. Can you name any other gods that sacrificed themselves or their children for us? No, no. That's a total inversion of the relationship. And in my
well, it
mind,
turned
that,
everything upside down. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, the emperors were equal with the poorest people in the eyes of God, and that had never any idea like that had never been uttered before. Because to utter such a thing would be to get yourself killed,
well,
tortured, disappeared, outcast.
what is it? All the apostles but one,
And
they
that's
were
what
killed
all
for
the
this.
Christian
Jesus
apostles
was killed for this. Still,
Christian disciples went through this
still to this day, Christians are the most persecuted religion on the planet
by far.
in all the countries that they're in.
Yeah.
And I think it's in Kenya, 12 a day are being murdered.
Go to China.
And specifically because they're Christians. But yeah, so this new perfect God with a perfect example of human now disappearing, particularly in this day and age. And now, like, what are we going to do? Like, are we going to, you know, through our infinite wisdom as human beings, create this new method in this new way that's going to work? Well, obviously not. We have a happen.
Yeah,
like,
in
we
one
happen to
generation.
not even one generation, but like since we really started doing this, how many, you know, tens, hundreds of millions of people have died for this new.
Well, each generation thinks that they can change it, and it's such a young project, and you can't just completely rebuild something completely new that people are unfamiliar with. There's a lot of really good wheat inside the Christian framework, and you know, you can see this in Zen Buddhism and other wisdom schools as well, that we could be incorporating into our understanding of a relationship with God now in the modern age. But we are so, once again, tribally oriented, that we're afraid of seeing how some of these ideas do marry together and complement one another. And you can be somebody that practices Buddhist meditation, but is also a Christian. We see a lot of cases like that. So some of these wisdom traditions can marry together pretty well. Some cannot so much. And we've got to tease out, what is it about this particular religious practice that makes it actually anti-human in some ways? Like,
well, and then we have religious practices that we don't even realize are religious practices. Like, you know, like when the yoga fad took over, that's
or the current ideology of wokeism.
The fact that, you know, not just crystal woo-woo worship stuff, but we commonly say stuff like, you know, well, the word actualize has been butchered all over the place, or manifest has been butchered. Like, you know, you could just think about it, manifest and all this stuff. And, you know,
we're trying to recapture
books
actualize.
And stuff like that. That's religious ideas. And there's a hidden religion that is all around the world that we don't even realize. And it's that, you know, it's that modern Gnostic, esoteric, you know, non-theist religion. You know, you don't have to believe to be participating in it. You just go to Coachella and you do the thing, and you take drugs and you feel spiritual, and you do that. And
but there's no commitment to a practice,
or a commitment to a practice that actually doesn't help you,
that encourages your discipline in a way and helps you get closer.
Because there are
stay consistent with that practice.
Because there are a lot of behaviors within, you know, say bad religion, good or bad religion, but it's not good for you to do it. You know, and that's why, like, a good religion will lay out things that are good for you, and they're actually good for you. And if you apply them, they're good for you, and they're good for everybody else. You know, a religion that says you need to go out and you need to subdue people, and if they're not like you, it's okay to treat them like crap. That's not a good religion, because it's not good for you, and it's not good for everybody else. Because it's really not good for you, because, like, even though we are a violent species, we are far more cooperative based than we are violence based. Or else we wouldn't be here.
Big time,
You know, we'd all be dead. We'd have died off a long time ago if that wasn't the case. We wouldn't have everything we have. So it's good. It's good for people to integrate with other people, but again, discretion. You know, knowing the difference between good and evil, and we can't just do that by ourselves. That's why religion is important. That's the whole sin of eating the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Oh, I can know what's good and I can know what's evil. Okay, good luck with that. how many hundreds of millions of people need to die because of,
Yeah,
some pseudo
because
religious cause. that they
everybody's
thought
idea
they
of
were
what's
right.
good is going to be subjective, and you need to find something that transcends all of our ideas that we all can look up to as the ultimate ideal.
Yeah.
So it's like we all need an alpha to bow down before, to be led by, something that we can admit, okay, this is bigger than me.
And
There's something greater than me out there that unites and knits us all together, and I want to be subservient to that thing instead of just doing everything for me.
Yep.
Because that's how we get into these messes where we become self-destructive and fall victim to divide and conquer methodology as easily as we are today. So, yeah, that's that. So that catches us back up, and let's go ahead and now pick up from paragraph 21 at 3342. All right, fam. We're jumping back in. And if you are enjoying this, make sure you check the description of this video. You can find links to this video and the essay as well. Here we go.
The consequence, then, when Christianity, as a living historical force, recedes. We have no need to speculate as it happens. Modernity speaks for itself. With the withdrawal of Christian culture, all the glories of the ancient world that it baptized and redeemed have perished with it in the general cataclysm. Christianity is the midwife of nihilism, not because it is itself nihilistic, but because it is too powerful in its embrace of the world and all of the world's mystery and beauty. And so to reject Christianity now is of necessity to reject everything except the barren anonymity of spontaneous subjectivity. As Ivan Karamazov's Grand Inquisitor tells Christ, the freedom that the gospel brings is too terrible to be borne indefinitely. Our sin makes us feeble and craven, and we long to flee from the liberty of the sons of God, but where now can we go? Everything is Christ's.
Ah,
So-
yes. So we did cover that
Yeah,
last.
we-
That was
we
the
did
last
cover that.
paragraph we covered.
But yeah, so the main takeaway of this is the idea that Christianity is the midwife of nihilism, not necessarily because Christianity is inherently nihilistic, but because the removal of Christianity has left us with nothing to believe in.
Yep.
So, got anything else on that?
How modern philosophy rejects this loss. This is what we're getting into now.
Yeah.
We start focusing on the self, like Descartes, I think, therefore I am, instead of the world, because Christianity had already claimed the world's deepest truths. This led to a philosophy that's just about personal will ending in emptiness. So this was how Christianity became the accidental midwife of nihilism. Jumping back.
This is illustrated with striking clarity by the history of modern philosophy, at least in its continental and, so to speak, proper form. It is fashionable at present among some theologians to attempt precise genealogies of modernity, which in general I would rather avoid doing. But it does seem clear to me that the special preoccupations and perversities of modern philosophy were incubated in the age of late scholasticism, with the rise of nominalism and voluntarism. Whereas earlier theology spoke of God as goodness as such, whose every act, by virtue of divine simplicity, expresses his nature, the spectre that haunts late scholastic thought is a God whose will precedes his nature, and whose acts then are feats of pure spontaneity. It is a logically incoherent way of conceiving of God, as it happens, though I cannot argue that here. But it is a powerful idea, elevating as it does will over all else and redefining freedom, for God and by extension for us, not as the unhindered realization of a nature, the liberty to become what you are, but as the absolute liberty of the will in determining even what its nature is.
So we see how modern philosophy reflects the loss, starts focusing on the self. Christianity had already claimed the world's deeper truths. This led to a philosophy that's just about personal will, ending in emptiness.
Yeah, spontaneous personal will. And if God's will comes before his nature and is spontaneous, then so are we.
Yep.
We are reflective. I think that's what the whole, made in his image, or the as above, so below principle means. It's like we are reflections or different leveled, what would you call it? Renderings of God.
Yeah, we're like the holographic pixels within the larger reality that is God. So the tiny pixel can reflect the entire cosmos, but it's scaled down to this little pixel,
And now, mind you, we're blind and have terrible resolution, so we're just fumbling around as a spiritual species,
Yeah.
So we're imperfect reflections, which is great. We need to be.
Yeah, of course, gives us room to grow.
Yeah.
And the experience of the perfection of love is something that God can now enjoy originally. So it's not just knowing everything that can be and ever will be. It's now experiencing life viscerally and freshly, as though it could never experienced it before through we individual extensions of itself that have forgotten the source from which we came. So this next paragraph continues and gets into Descartes now. So let's go ahead and cover that.
Thus, when modern philosophy established itself anew as a discipline autonomous from theology, it did so naturally by falling back upon an ever more abyssal subjectivity.
Yep.
Real autonomy could not be gained by turning back to the wonder of being or to the transcendental perfections of the world, for to do so would be to slip again into a sphere long colonized by theology. And so the new point of departure for reason had to be the perceiving subject rather than the world perceived. Descartes, for instance, explicitly forbade himself any recourse to the world's testimony of itself. In his third meditation, he seals all his senses against nature so that he can undertake his rational reconstruction of reality from a position pure of any certitude save that of the ego's own existence. The world is recovered thereafter only insofar as it is posited as an act of will. And while God appears in that reconstruction, he does so only as a logical postulate following from the idea of the infinite.
Okay.
Well, that's almost satanic as far as the portfolio of Satan, which is separation. Separating yourself from the world, going internal, and then just allowing your ego to build God for you. And through logic and rationality, we can do that. Yeah. Okay. Bud.
So we focused on the self. We encouraged egoism and nihilism. This led to a philosophy that it's just about personal will. And of course that did end us in this place of emptiness where there is a serious issue of meaninglessness in so many people's lives, purposelessness in so many people's lives.
And a general lack of connection with each other as well.
And a feeling at home in the world and that belonging. Yeah.
And that you actually care for it and the people in it.
Yes.
Opposed to, as long as my will gets done, I'm good.
Heart connection. Yeah.
It almost like, it's almost a sociopathic or psychopathic philosophy, nihilism.
We can see it too in how we try and distract ourselves from the pain and the stress of this world with our junk food and just like binge watching TV.
Junk food, junk media, junk literature.
Yeah.
Junk thoughts.
Escapism to the point that it becomes unhealthy for us. So we're not just exploring other worlds for the wonder and the joy and then coming back home and reappreciating our world. We're hiding from our world. We're avoiding our world.
We just want the stuffs, give us stuffs. Just gives and we'll be fine. We'll be happier. Yeah, just giving people stuff does not help them. People just getting stuff does not help them. How many yachts does it take to fill the void that having a true friend or a true partner in life, how many yachts do you need to feel that?
Yeah, really. Yeah, great point.
Not that I'll ever have a yacht, but I don't know. If I had a yacht, I probably wouldn't have a house. I'd just live on the freaking yacht. Like, what's the point?
Yeah. Alrighty, so anyway. let's continue on here, fam. The idea of the infinite. All right, here we go. Jumping back.
From there it is a short step to Kant's transcendental ego, for whom the world is the representation of its own irreducible I think, and which, inasmuch as it is its own infinity, requires God as a postulate only in the realm of ethics, and merely as a regulative idea in the realm of epistemology. And the passage from transcendental idealism to absolute idealism, however much it involved an attempt to escape egoistic subjectivity, had no world to which to return. Even Hegel's system, for all that it sought to have done with petty subjectivism, could do so only by way of a massive metaphysical myth of the self-positing of the concept, and of a more terrible economy of necessity than any pagan antiquity had imagined. This project was, in every sense, incredible, and its collapse inevitably brought philosophy by way of Nietzsche and Heidegger to its postmodern condition, a heap of broken images. If Heidegger was right, and he was, in saying that there was always a nihilistic core to the Western philosophical tradition, The withdrawal of Christianity leaves nothing but that core behind.
Wow.
For the gospel long ago stripped away both the deceits and the glories that had concealed it. And so philosophy becomes, almost by force of habit, explicit nihilism.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Whew. The only options left are a dark nihilism that worships death or a shallow culture of comfort and distraction.
Oh, we have both. Yeah. Worships death.
Yeah. Yeah, so without Christianity, no gods can replace it because Christ's story has taken in all the beauty and truth of the old ways. Trying to go back to ancient beliefs doesn't work because we're not in that context anymore. Modern people know deep down that only faith in Christ can satisfy their longing for meaning. This guy's the only thing that's left. And that shows us unconditional love and totally defeats nihilism in his every movement.
Well, and it combines all that was good from all the other religions into one thing.
Yep.
And
so when we destroy Christianity,
it gives a really good point in order to either ignore or disdain it.
Yep.
Right. Opposed to a bunch of different points, that you'd have to take them all out, all one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this is take it all out at once, gone. Yep. And I know I've said this before, but there is no going back into Eden.
No.
So there's no going back into, the simple pagan ways or, there's no return to the Shire. The Shire doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
They're like, we can't go back to those glory days before, that's why I don't really agree with this neo-pagan stuff. I think it's absolutely silly. There's some beautiful things that come out of it.
Yeah.
But I think it's completely silly. It doesn't really go anywhere because you weren't there. You're not living with the trees and surviving off of what the forest gives you, and you're just not there.
And we now know the idea of a transcendent God that is actually loving, which supersedes all of the other systems before.
I've noticed with a lot of the neo-pagans and stuff, they were Christians growing up, and then they just a lot of times went into Satanism, and it was just like, this is too dark, which is Satanism is the inversion of Christianity. And then, so they're like, well, I'm not going to go back into Christianity because screw that. So I'm just going to go ahead and, go into some weird mishmash, shattered, what was that? He said in there, shattered images of what was once before. And I'm not like trying to condemn or anything. I'm just
you
being
almost can't blame
realistic
people
about
because, a lot of modern Christianity is so much fundamentalism and frankly, dogma and shaming. And so,
and some shaming's good. Some shaming is actually very good, but too much shaming, yes, is a problem.
Right.
Like you shouldn't be running out in your front yard absolutely
There's a
naked.
point, everybody knows this that's dealt with the teenagers. There's a point where if you shame too much and too harshly, then they're actually going to go and do that exact thing more.
Well, and the funny thing is, we talk about teenagers. I was a teenager. I felt shameful all the time. My body was changing. I was getting all, my brain was changing. And it's like, I would say something or do something that was really freaking stupid, and I was always feeling shame. So are you going to continue to shame me? No, like Christianity isn't just shaming. Yeah. There's also a forgiveness there after repentance. Like, hey, like, come on, bud, you knew that was really stupid and you shouldn't have done that. I know. Like, please don't do this again. And when they were like, really like, yeah, okay. Like, I'm definitely not going to take the truck and try to.
The one shame on you for doing that, but I also love you. And here's how you
and I don't want to shame you again.
Here's how you can do this better. And I do love you. So, that's a whole different approach. So.
Yeah, so I'm not condemning like neo-pagans or anybody who wishes to go back to Eden. I'm just stating for a fact that there is no going back to Eden.
Yeah, absolutely not. And if you guys really do want to love one another and try and be open to ideas, hey, heck yeah, you're already more than halfway there. So I appreciate that orientation towards life.
Just trying to get in touch better with, the spirit. So the spirit of God, whatever you want to call it, is still, I think, a good thing.
Yeah,
it just becomes dangerous when we get distracted and it pulls us down into
and don't forget that there's
things.
The most helpful archetype that humanity has ever encountered, which is Christ. He gives us a way of being. He exhibits it in a human way that we can actually understand and relate to, because we can't relate to the infinite, ineffable source of God.
And for you party people, and all that stuff, Jesus was great at a party. He took a bunch of water and turned it into wine because they ran out of wine. And he didn't make just some mediocre wine. It was the best wine.
I'd like to dig into go into Jonathan Pajot video on that and dig into the metaphor and symbolism in that story.
Well, one thing that's interesting about that is the best wine, because usually you give the best wine in the beginning.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
In
the beginning,
because the host drinks, he's like, "Whoa, this is really good."
Yeah, and then you give them the crap after everybody's drunk. But hey,
that's right. That's exactly right.
But
why are you giving all the good wine now? Yeah.
But there's some old pagan symbology
at the end of the party. You're giving the good wine.
Yeah, there's some ancient pagan relics still in that story, as well, as far as blood and flesh, consuming blood and flesh and stuff like that. I'm not saying that was something that Christianity took from paganism. I'm saying like the evolution out of paganism into Judaism into Christianity had that core.
Yeah.
Still through it. Right?
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
that it did.
Anyway,
that it did. Yeah.
So hey, yeah,
Jesus slowly got rid of the sacrificial part of it too with the New Testament.
Jesus was the perfect party guy. He was super respectful with everybody. He was looking out for everybody, and he brought the beer.
Yes. Jesus.
Sorry, that might be sacrilegious, but I am sacrilegious sometimes. I'm not.
This is one of the things that turned me off of Christianity when I was a kid. I was in Sunday school one day, and the teacher asked, "What do you think that everyone here is drinking?" And it was wine, and Jesus and his disciples. And I said, Zima, because I'd seen Zima commercials all over TV at that point in time. And I was just trying to be funny.
Yeah, right.
I was just trying something out as a kid. That teacher shamed me so harshly that I didn't want to go to church anymore after that. And it filled me with so much shame for just trying to be a little bit extroverted for once, because I was a very introverted kid.
Yeah, right.
So then that chopped that off, and don't be extroverted. Don't try and cheer people up around you and be funny and joyful or anything like that. Like, she could have easily just taught me that that's inappropriate.
You're
Chris,
offending Jesus.
Because if she had come up with some rational way to explain why maybe I'd gone too, but I hadn't really done anything wrong. I just didn't know any better. I was a kid. You didn't need to handle it that way.
You were close. For those who don't know, who are too young, Zima was an old alcoholic beverage. It was basically like alcoholic Sprite.
Yeah. So don't shame people for when they don't even know any better. I mean, come on, like to that degree. So yeah.
Well, and also,
one of the reasons a lot of people left Christianity was people like that.
Yeah,
that were not following the way of Christ.
And nobody likes a moral Puritan, whether you're religious or not. We just don't like that. That's not a good way of spreading anything.
Really?
It's quite nihilistic, actually.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump back in here. Here we go.
Zima, that's hilarious.
Zima. Yep.
Modern philosophy, however, merely reflects the state of modern culture and modern cult. And it is to this sphere that I should turn now, as it is here that spiritual warfare is principally to be waged.
Here we go.
I should admit that I, for one, feel considerable sympathy for Nietzsche's plaint, nearly 2,000 years and no new God, and for Heidegger intoning his mournful oracle, only a God can save us. But of course none will come. The Christian God has taken up everything into himself. All the treasures of ancient wisdom, all the splendor of creation, every good thing has been assumed into the story of the incarnate God, and every stirring towards transcendence is soon recognized by the modern mind, weary of God, as leading back towards faith. Antique pieties cannot be restored, for we moderns know that the hungers they excite can be sated only by the gospel of Christ and him crucified. To be a Stoic today, for instance, is simply to be a soul in via to the church. A Platonist, most of us understand, is only a Christian manqué, and a polytheist is merely a truant from the one God he hates and loves. The only
Wow.
So one thing to give, a little bit of pre-hope with this, though, it's like, okay, no new God in 2,000 years, and only a God can save us. Well, Jesus, the whole thing with Jesus is essentially a rebirth, a resurrection, right? So it's not unfeasible to resurrect again in the hearts of man, right? So that's a good counter to nihilism.
Yep.
But
only faith in Christ can satisfy the longing for meaning at this point. We can't throw away the baby with the bathwater, and that's what we've ended up doing here.
Yeah.
You throw that baby out, the whole thing falls apart.
No, they threw the bathwater out with the baby because we become that psychotic.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, we gotta get rid of this baby. No, save the bathwater.
So that recapitulates. Without Christianity, no new gods can replace it. Christ's story has taken in all the beauty and truth of the old ways. Trying to go back to ancient beliefs now doesn't work. Modern people know deep down the only faith in Christ can satisfy our longing for meaning.
And that whole taking into him, it's not like a covetous thief. It's more like an embrace, a warm embrace, bringing into the family, bringing into the self. not stealing all the
it
things.
encapsulated and upgraded our understanding of beauty and truth in all ways.
Yeah.
So it highlighted the old ways, but once you take away that highlight and the words underneath it, then you got nothing left. So here we go, jumping back in, fam.
That can truly thrive in the aftermath of Christianity is a sordid service of the self, of the impulses of the will, of the nothingness that is all that the withdrawal of Christianity leaves behind. The only futures open to post-Christian culture are conscious nihilism, with its inevitable devotion to death, or the narcotic banality of the last men, which may be little better than death. Surveying the desert of modernity, we would be, I think, morally derelict not to acknowledge that Nietzsche was right in holding Christianity responsible for the catastrophe around us, even if he misunderstood why. We should confess that the failure of Christian culture to live up to its victory over the old gods has allowed the dark power that once hid behind them to step forward in propria persona. And we should certainly dread whatever rough beast it is that is being bred in our ever coarser, crueler, more inarticulate, more vacuous popular culture. Because cloaked in its anodyne incipience lies a world increasingly devoid of merit, wit, kindness, imagination, or charity.
Boy.
Yeah, just a good explaining of kind of where we're at.
Yeah. The only options left are a dark nihilism that worships death, or a shallow culture of comfort and distraction. Christianity's victory over the old gods exposed nihilism's true face, and now we see it in our cruel, empty, popular culture. Everywhere.
Yeah, and that idea of the last men, the narcotic something of the last men, the idea that, you know, like imagine being, and they've made movies about this, but, you know, being like the last few people on a spaceship going off to somewhere, the planet's been blown up, there's nobody left, it's just y'all, and there's no way you're going to rebuild the species, and you're just there, and you know, dope yourself up with whatever you can and just play your video games, you know?
Yeah.
Or go have your experience, go to your Coachella,
Yeah.
go to your whatever activist cause and protest, and you know, you're trying to fill a hole in you that is.
We want to create a more virtuous and loving world, but we don't want to do the changes within to become more virtuous and loving ourselves.
and
so we're doing the whole thing backwards.
In this
we create new systems that are just as oppressive as the last one.
Yeah. And where we're at right now, you know, this nihilistic place that we're at right now, it's almost like we're the last ones left. And that there's a lot of end times people in Christianity that are like, this is the end. And it's just like, that's almost the same as saying, you know, screw it, you know, nothing matters, you know, like we're past all this and just, you know, like.
But God still wants us to keep on building and growing.
Well, sure. You
together.
Know, even you know, after the apocalypse and, you know, everybody's taken up or whatever, there's going to be a new, more advanced world and a new, more advanced heaven. That's
what apocalypse means. We've forgotten the meaning of even the word apocalypse.
It's not an end; it's a beginning. So we should, you know, have some heart and take spirit. We are the first.
It's like a transition from one season to another.
We can be the first to take these steps back out into the world.
We're trying to go from winter into spring, basically here.
And it sucks, man. Like
from one age to another.
Because the transition from winter to spring kind of sucks sometimes.
Yeah. So an apocalypse, the ending of an epoch, is occurring right now, but that does not mean that the entire world and cosmos ends. You know, it's just death of some old ways of being and rebirth of hopefully those ideas that keep us closely knit and working optimally together. So jumping back in, fam, here we go. It's the essay Christ and Nothing by David Bentley Hart. We jumping.
These are, I admit, extreme formulations, but while I may delight in provocation, I do not wish on this point to be misunderstood.
Freezing again.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
stand by, fam, as the computer
cut
catches
away
up with
while it does
ourselves.
its thing. But yeah, I guess, like, you know, probably the goal of what we've been doing with this podcast is an antidote to nihilism.
Absolutely.
You know, meaning making 101. That's kind of what we call ourselves, or at least our first jaunt out into this.
Yeah,
and it's important to find a way you can make meaning and fight nihilism within your own life. You know, some people are extroverted and go talk to people. Some people aren't, but that, if you can't go out and talk to people, there's still another way. Maybe you're a great writer. Maybe you're not. Maybe all that you can do is do one nice thing
When
for
recently
yourself,
I made these very remarks.
so you don't feel like ending it all.
Yes.
That's a way to combat it too. So even if you're just left with yourself and you're on the edge, the best thing you can do to fight the nihilism is show yourself a kindness. Damn it, like, oh, I want to help the world. But
And do something kind for someone that could never repay you.
well, that's yourself
that's
usually.
true. But I don't
for,
is yourself.
for most of us, even with the great works we do in the world, how good are you to yourself?
Really?
And it's a funny paradox too, because
That's a tough one.
It's a funny paradox too, because we spend so much time focusing on ourselves and what we want and our own miseries, but how often are we actually truly kind? Like
Giving
doing
ourselves
the
what we really
kindest
need.
thing- the
not
kindest
just
thing
what
to
we
yourself.
flippantly want,
Yeah.
but what we need.
And sometimes the kindest is to have a sit down with yourself and like, look, dude,
Yeah.
for some types of people, that's what it is. But even if that's all you can do, you're still helping to combat nihilism, and you're helping to make the world a better place, even if it's just stepping back off that ledge yourself.
In that step,
for
you are
yourself.
regenerating meaning and reason.
So, because not everybody can be as impactful as like a Charlie Kirk or
Jordan
J.D.
Peterson,
Krishnamurti or Jordan Peterson or all these great thinkers and faces that we all know. Not everybody can do that, and not everybody is extroverted enough or has the means to go out and help people or donate stuff or do whatever. But there's always a way that you can help.
Yep.
And even if it's that, just help yourself.
Yep.
And, to be a little bit cynical, it's also the more of us that aren't helping ourselves truly, we're dragging other people down with us.
Right.
Become bitter and nasty and be
Oh, yeah,
like,
because
how
we
dare you
become like
believe in
anchors.
Jesus
Yeah.
and God? That's stupid. You're all cult members.
I can just feel the cruelty and the nastiness of the tonality that you took on when you were expressing that.
Yeah, because
people are swimming in that kind of energy.
Dude, I see it all the time. I have interactions with. I can't hang out with most of my old friends anymore because it's just become that nasty. And if you
Hateful.
say if like, hey, I'm actually feeling better spiritually in life, and I don't want to just jump off the next bridge I'm on because I found Jesus. They're like, oh, you're stupid. I've seen that so many times.
How are we going to create more loving, kind, and peaceful systems of coexistence if the attitude that we're coming in with is one of hate and just pure rageful anger? And
you got to look after yourself. Get in touch with the God that. Well, if your body is a temple, God is lingering in you, and you don't have to go any further than where you are to find Him.
Amen. I like it. 100%. All right, guys, so we're jumping back now. Here we go.
Popular culture. Because cloaked in its anodyne incipience lies a world increasingly devoid of merit, wit, kindness, imagination, or charity. These are, I admit, extreme formulations, but while I may delight in provocation, I do not wish on this point to be misunderstood. When recently I made these very remarks from a speaker's podium, two theologians, neither of whom I would consider a champion of modernity, raised objections. From one quarter I was chided for forgetting the selflessness of which modern persons are capable. September 11th, 2001, I was reminded, demonstrated the truth of this, surely, and those of us who teach undergraduates must be aware that for all the cultural privations they suffer, they are often decent and admirable. From the other quarter, I was cautioned that so starkly stated an alternative as Christianity or nihilism amounted to a denial of the goodness of natural wisdom and virtue, and seemed to suggest that gratia non perfici sed destruit naturam. As fair as such remarks may be, however, they are not apposite to my argument.
There he goes, busting out the Latin and words like apposite. This guy's grasp of the English language is insane. I'm going to look this up right quick. This Latin here, I'm very curious what that means. But to sum that paragraph up right quick, some might argue that modern people can still be selfless, like heroes on 9/11, or that natural goodness still exists outside of Christianity. And David Bentley Hart here agrees, but says the problem in our culture's overall moral language is that it's too fragmented to explain or sustain that goodness. That makes sense. So,
well, the foundation is on sand. I think there's something about that in the Bible. Don't build your house, don't build your church on sand. But the way with the tide, you got to build it on rock.
yes,
And rock is deep.
Okay, here we are. The Latin phrase is the opposite of a famous maxim from Christian theology. The phrase means grace does not perfect, but destroys nature. The actual famous theological maxim from Thomas Aquinas states that grace does not destroy nature, but perfects it. Okay. So this likely reflects a theological stance contrary to Aquinas, potentially associated with figures like Martin Luther or John Calvin. Very interesting. And then, what is that term? Okay. So Christianity or nihilism. He was cautioned so starkly by some of his fellows. The alternative of Christianity or nihilism to them amounted to a denial of the goodness or natural wisdom and virtue, and seemed to suggest.
Oh, so yeah, they're
Yes.
saying you're flipping. Okay.
Okay. So they thought he was flipping that old Aquinas statement and saying something like grace does not perfect but destroys nature. And so David Bentley Hart's going to be like, nope, that's not actually what I was saying. Let's see what the word apposite means.
Oh.
Apposite. Say that again. Heck. Okay, we're still having issues here.
Oh, yeah. You know,
I'm bugging this system out, man.
I'm blaming the sunspots.
So odd. I do not understand. Anyways,
Yeah.
all right. Well, we've learned enough. And in context, I think I get what it's saying. It's just the opposite of opposite, I think is what apposite means.
Yeah.
So maybe a sameness.
But, you know.
They're not the same as my argument, is what he's saying.
Yeah. And the thing is it is a big thing to be like, look, it's either Christianity or we're going to go into nihilism.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, like, you know, how dare you say that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
what about natural goodness and virtue that we see in the world?
yeah, well, the thing is,
That's because we're all swimming in Christian waters, as Jordan Peterson points out to people like Sam Harris, is that you don't even realize that so many of the moral virtues that you've picked up on and that you treasure and think more people should live up to in this world are Christian virtues. That's how they got popularized and became a part of our common cultural thinking. So people that are upset, that are out there protesting and consider themselves atheists, are protesting because of Christian values they have that they think are not being upheld properly.
Yeah.
They want to see fairness and equality and all these things that Jesus preached to us about.
Well, and we have to remember that human nature is not intrinsically good. That's not so. We're intrinsically not good. We have to be trained to be good. Just look at toddlers. They bite, smack, hit. If you don't raise them right and you don't socialize them, they don't end up as good people.
I see. Hey, and what's up, Shavaya? I see Shavaya here in the
Shavaya.
chat. She says, my favorite Christian text is The Cloud of Unknowing. Ooh, that sounds interesting. I listened to it from archive.org. I love that place. I love that site. The Cloud of Unknowing is a book of Christian mysticism. We are so on the same page, Shavaya. I love that you're sharing this. I'm going to look this up. The text is a spiritual guide on contemplative prayer. How cool. Okay. And then she says, great stuff today. Thank you so much, Shavaya, and thank you for what you just shared. That sounds really, really intriguing.
And I do like the idea of contemplative prayer. It's not just, you know, talking at God or asking God for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's almost like being in conversation with God to figure stuff out.
A meditative contemplation style of approach.
Yeah, because, you know, prayer
You're
is
in
just,
the temple with God.
Prayer is just talking to God, right? But most of the time we think of prayer as just like asking for stuff, you know, like I need these blessings, so-and-so's sick, you know, help me with this, you know, please, you know, gimme. But it's like, well, there's a whole other avenue of prayer that you can do, and that's the conversation with God, and that's your everyday prayer too. I was and
feeling into the experience of reality, you know, of God's creation, and recognizing that's what I'm experiencing right now, instead of being in the mind and that in our ongoing monologue.
Yeah, I was watching an Orthodox priest. I forget which one. He's relatively popular on the YouTubes, but you know, he's talking about whatever he's talking about. But he got to a point that really stuck out with me, which was, you know, someone's like, oh, you know, I pray twice a day, or I, you know, pray 5 times a day. It's like, that's not enough. It's pretty much, it has to be constant through your day. Now, the contemplative end, you know, you got to think more, but you can do it. Like, how much of our day is spent where we're not even paying attention to anything. You're driving down the road.
Yeah.
You're you're washing the dishes, sweeping the floor, you're doing all that stuff. You could be doing that in your head. And you naturally do if you're a thinker anyway. You're always running things through your head and there's the chatter in there. And why not make it a conversation?
Yeah.
Why not make it a prayer?
And it brings you back into the moment, helps you re-present
Sure.
yourself so that you can be more fully attentive to what
what's that book called?
It's called The Cloud of Unknowing.
Cool. And it's on archive.
Archive.org. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Sweet. Well, thank you. It's actually getting to that wrap up time. We're already
Is it
at
now?
8, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So eventually we'll get through this whole essay.
Yeah, but I really love that. This essay is so dense, but it's like falling into a gold mine and being surrounded by gems in gold. So there's a lot to pick through here, and that's why we're probably going to end up taking 10 episodes just to get through this one lecture, which, and when you read it out from beginning to end, it literally is only 51 minutes.
Yeah.
So this is something any of you guys can listen to, but as you can see, it's so chock full of wisdom that we are literally spending weeks and months breaking this thing down. But, it's one of those diamond in the roughs, and it's certainly worth taking the time to understand the many facets of expression that David Bentley Hart so thoughtfully shares with us. I mean, this is truly a work of great love and the result of decades of study with one of the foremost theologians on the planet. And he's been very fair in the way that he's honest. Christianity helped bring this about accidentally, but this was an inevitable result of Christianity's popularity. We have to go through these cycles of understanding and learning as a species. So 2,000 years now later, we are having to recapitulate these ideas in a new way that makes sense in our modern context. And because of the speed, the rate of change nowadays, that makes that a tricky process. Thank God that we have also an increased rate of speed of transmission of ideas. We have access to the internet, high definition streams, so you guys can learn and grow with us. And we can understand things that, we didn't have the chance before the last Civil War to be able to talk in depth about what was about to happen with each other, as an entire nation, and instantaneously be able to share thoughts and questions. We were separated by weeks and months of travel, and we could not hash these things out. So we might be able to stop ourselves from going into a very, very dark place here.
Well, and also, like with the speed of information we have now, back before then, your knowledge base was only as good as your library if you had one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Or what books they could order for you if they could order them for you.
Oh my God, books were priceless.
And still, somehow, the people who became literate were extremely freaking literate.
Yeah.
And it's funny, this guy writes...
Just learning from like a Bible and one or two other books.
This guy writes like he's from the olden times, It's really funny the way is like that kind of writing and speaking has gone out of phase in this modern era.
Yeah. But the being able to have such a wide breadth of understanding of the English language and so many words at his disposal allows him to say things that would have taken, maybe somebody else. You could write this very simply in a 200-page book, for instance.
Yeah.
He's able to condense it down into this essay because of the way that he's able to explain things in such a concentrated way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the benefit of becoming good at your language and
you can say a lot more with a lot less.
Yeah.
But then it's up for us to really stretch and exercise our minds by learning exactly what he's talking about.
Sure. Hey,
but it still fast forwards the process.
You get
We're
better.
not reading a 200-page book here.
You get better at language by listening and reading.
Yep.
And nowadays you can do both at the same time.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Now it's time for the Good News Roundup.
I need a button that like does like some confetti and goes, yay! Good News Roundup.
We need to get a sound effects board. I like that idea.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, we have a sound effects board. I just need to figure out how to load in the sounds and then, make some special effects that come up on this other board.
The pads on that mixer there. We do indeed. Yeah. All right. Okay. We're going to come up with some. That's the next project.
The Good News Roundup.
Yay.
Yeah. With like a bunch of kids going, yay.
I like it. Yes.
Maybe some like twizzling fireworks sounds or something.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what do we got first up?
So first up, here we go. First African nation to eliminate river blindness treated millions with ivermectin to achieve great success.
You mean they use that horse paste?
The horse tranquilizer that Joe Rogan took that made him turn brown or green?
No, horse dewormer.
Dewormer, that's it.
Yeah.
No, tranquilizer. I'm thinking.
No, the horse tranquilizer is ketamine, and that's what
right.
the kids at the parties do.
What? Why are you doing horse tranquilizer? Let's just turn everything into like pet medicine, even when it didn't start out that way. You know, ivermectin, the guy that invented ivermectin won like multiple Nobels or something, right?
Well, it is the miracle drug.
It's a it's saved. It's been administered over 1 billion times.
It's an antiparasitic, antiviral.
Saved millions of people's lives.
It seems to have some effects on cancer.
And they also use it on animals secondarily because of how effective it was on humans.
When all we had was penicillin, we used
when it's been used against
too.
COVID, now it's a horse dewormer.
You said the word. Oh, no, wait. We won't be canceled for that anymore.
I don't
we
think
won't
they
be
can
kicked
anymore.
off the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. The vid.
The Rona.
The
I don't even know if you can get away with saying Rona.
The Wu flu. That's racist. It came from Wuhan.
We've never paid too much attention to what you can or can't say, but I guess that to some...
Maybe our numbers would be better if we did.
Quite possibly. Jeez, yeah.
Well, I tried not to cuss this episode. We'll see if we get more views.
Right? I can't remember if I cursed this episode or not, but I'm trying to do better about cursing in general.
Okay, so the good news. Now the jokes
The good news,
aside.
yeah. So, ivermectin. Hey.
Curing river blindness, which is a real bad problem for the places that have it.
And speaking of...
Oh.
Everyone remembers during the Rona years, the sudden demonization by major media outlets of ivermectin. Now, one of the most used medicines on earth, just helped Niger to become the first country in Africa to eradicate a debilitating parasitical disease.
Niger. They prefer
Niger,
they prefer us call that.
On choker or something, however you say that, river blindness, is spread via the filarial parasite, however you say that, transmitted through black flies, which breed near fast-flowing rivers. At its ugliest, it can cause severe skin disfigurations, permanent blindness, and epilepsy.
Oof.
Present in 26 African countries, as well as parts of Brazil, Venezuela, and Yemen, its transmission was severely reduced in the Americas following wide-scale distribution programs of ivermectin starting in the 1980s. Called the Mectizin Donation Program, managed by the World Health Organization. That's another thing about ivermectin. It's been around for so long that it's super, super cheap to produce. There's no money in it for big pharma.
Well,
why would you push ivermectin when you could sell everybody a gene-modifying sequence?
I'm getting commercials for, you gut cleanse stuff that's like ivermectin and something else on YouTube, just like casually. Just like, yes, buy this pill that has it in there. And I'm just like, okay, that's suspect. But, I mean... And so, it's pretty much safe.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are some fringe cases where it's not safe for people to use, if you're, pregnant or lactating, talk to your doctor and all that jazz. But
right. This horse dewormer, wide-scale ivermectin treatment has continued until present day, such that this year on World Neglected Tropical Disease Day, what a name for a holiday, Niger was confirmed and honored as the first African country to eradicate onchocerciasis, which they achieved through 4 decades of ivermectin administration, an activity that also eradicated the elephant disease, lymphatic filariasis.
That's crazy.
Awesome. And Niger is one of the poorest countries in the world, and they were able to use this simple strategy and an effective medicine to completely eradicate this incredibly destructive virus. So that is great news. And then, I
guess they eradicate it by killing the parasite, and the parasite's not able to breed within the, or like something, because I don't know, maybe they can just tell when somebody's got it early enough and just give them the pills.
Now it can't spread as fast or something now because not as many people are getting it, I wonder.
Yeah, that's really good news.
Great news.
Good job, Niger or Niger, depending on who's saying the name. That's freaking awesome.
It is. And now vitamin K, used in groundbreaking prospective treatment for neurodegenerative diseases. I picked this one out because we're just talking about a vitamin, and this is huge. So vitamin K, find a good source of vitamin K, guys. I take a vitamin D, vitamin K, like liquid that I take droppers of every day. And this is because this is an essential nutrient that's hard to get enough of. And so vitamin K, essential nutrient that prevents blood clots and aids in bone health, could also be effective long-term treatment for neurodegenerative diseases. Japanese...
Blood clots, not bud clots.
Oh, yeah, look
Typo.
at that. Blood clots. I missed it. A Japanese study
team took the molecule, created a novel altered form, and used it to improve the transcriptions of cells into neurons at a rate 300% higher than controls. That's huge. If replicated in humans, such an effect would slow or even reverse the progress of diseases like Alzheimer's, Huntington's, and Parkinson's, and would be one of the first to be demonstrated to do so. It's just vitamin. That's awesome. Everyone can get this. And not overpriced. So, though possessing of this neuroprotective effect, naturally forming vitamin K compounds like menaquinone, quinone 4 are likely not substantial enough to prevent the onset of and progression of these diseases. So, in a groundbreaking study published in the ACS Chemical Neuroscience, researchers from the Department of Bioscience and Engineering at Shibara Institute of Technology in Japan synthesized 12 different vitamin K analogs that included a metabolite of vitamin A called retinoic acid and a methyl ester side chain. Long story short, it's awesome. Our research offers a potentially groundbreaking approach to treating neurodegenerative diseases. A vitamin K-derived drug that slows the progression of Alzheimer's or improves its symptoms could not only improve the quality of life for patients and their families, but also significantly reduce the growing societal burden of healthcare expenditures and long-term caregiving, big time for millions of people. The authors concluded their study by writing, "That's so cool. It's safe, tolerable, naturally occurring essential nutrients. Enormous advantages for drug manufacturers looking to capitalize on this research for a dementia treatment."
I guess
It's right there in our food, guys.
I guess this vitamin K, this specialized form of vitamin K, helps regenerate neuron cells.
Potentially. At the very
So-
least, it's stopping the spread and the degradation and
Yeah.
destruction of neuronal cells.
Because, like, neurons are like,
Because neurogenesis happens naturally, even if you're not taking a
but
supplement.
it's extremely slow.
It's slow. You can speed it up with things like taking lion's mane. And,
Yeah.
You know,
But like even
microdosing.
if like I'm still like, and I cut my thumb really bad a long time ago. You remember that?
Mhm.
And finally, after years and years and years, I've got full feeling on it. So the
Right.
nerves did
eventually grow back.
but it takes forever.
It
Like
takes years.
and
I did it
particularly-
in a couple months with lion's mane.
Yeah.
I cut myself to the bone on this finger once, and the whole tip of the finger was always numb. But once I started taking lion's mane, that improved within a matter of maybe a few months, maybe about 90 days.
So yeah, good news.
Awesomeness.
Good news about that stuff, because the neurodegenerative diseases are pretty nasty for the individuals who have them and those that love them. you know.
Ninja Bat is here. What's up, Ninja Bat? He raises a really good point. He says poor food quality means lower nutrients.
Yeah.
Supplements are more necessary. That makes sense because so much of the nutrient value of our foods is lost in transit. Sometimes foods take 10 to 14 days to get to the grocery store. So the produce there has got like 50 to 80% less nutrient value than it used to. Also, the ground soil is losing a lot of its nutrients. So
Well,
the
the other
nutrient
thing-
density of the fruits and vegetables that grows out of our soil nowadays is not as nutrient dense because the soil degradation on the planet.
Well, and we've bred our food to be big and beautiful and not necessarily nutritious.
Yep. And then we also
So-
need to eliminate
Oh, the heavy
heavy
metals.
metals and aluminum
Yeah,
nanoparticles.
particularly with
particulates, yeah.
plaques in like Alzheimer's is a plaquing issue
Mhm.
as well. So get a bunch of gunk that your body can't handle, can't get out normally.
And they're finding out that plaque is actually doing something. It's like a healing mechanism
Oh, really?
as well. Yeah.
So,
So we have to learn more about what that plaque is actually
almost
doing.
like a scab protecting it from
Kind of. I
something.
think that's what's
you know,
happening,
And
yeah.
then if you're scabbing too much,
Yeah.
you get like blood clots and shit
Yeah.
because it's basically an internal scab.
But like plastics in our
Yeah.
brains and things, that's going to stop stuff happening completely. And that's not going to have any good side effect to it. So yeah, heavy metals, microplastics. I mean, there's plastic molecules in our bodies that are the size of atoms. They're on that scale, on the atomic scale. They're so tiny they can pass through the vessels in our hearts.
Well,
They
A plastic's
accumulate in our brains. They're everywhere.
a plastic is just a hydrocarbon chain.
Mhm.
And if you just break the very far end of the hydrocarbon chains can be very fractaline. Like they can be this long.
I did learn
It's
actually
long.
reading today that sulforaphane, which is a nutrient that's found in broccoli and especially in sprouts, like broccoli sprouts, can increase the cleaning out of microplastic particles. So millions and millions of particles can release at a much faster rate than they would otherwise. So you can actually buy that as a supplement as well, guys, if you're trying to clean out the microplastics in your bodies. Look up sulforaphane.
Man, Well, thank you for the 4 people who are here on YouTube that just showed up late, just like Ninja Bat did.
Yo.
Sorry it's at the end of the show, but
Yeah,
we're doing the multi-part series. We're talking about.
we're on YouTube. It's permanent. You can go back and watch this thing. This has been one of the most intriguing pieces of writing I've read in my life. And when I came across it, I knew that we were going to have to cover it no matter how long it was going to take. And I knew it was going to take a while. I could have never suspected it would have taken us 10 episodes. I thought maybe 3 or 4. But here we are, man, and it makes sense. Every single paragraph is a new revelation.
Yeah.
And it's really clarifying everything that we studied in that 50-episode series with John Vervaeke and his awakening from the meaning crisis
you guys
lectures.
should check out.
Absolutely.
It'll make all this mumbo jumbo that we're talking about a little bit more understandable and palatable.
And if you're really, really interested in what's going on the cutting edge of Christianity right now, look up Jordan Hall and Jonathan Pajot. Both of those guys continue to put out excellent, excellent content. And I barely believe that these guys are some very special figures in our time. Maybe one day, if we have the retrospect, we'll look back and greatly appreciate what people like Hall and Pajot and Jordan Peterson and others are doing for the world right now. So love you guys so much. Thank you once again for tuning in to this episode of Actuali Podcast and our special weekly series, Meaning Making 101, where we try to make sense of this world together and realize how we may change this world from the inside out. So that's the name of the game. We are here to actualize in the way of Christ. Love you guys. I've been Chris.
I've been DJ.
And we will see you next time. Check us out Wednesday, 7 p. EST every week right here on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, and Facebook. Yeah, let's dance.
All right. Oh wait, I gotta turn up the volume. Sorry, I'm slacking on this.
Multitasking.
Oh man, I'm still figuring out this port.
Power.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Hold on. We're
It's
still
all right.
here. You can still hear us. All right. We're going to play you out. I don't know. The board just, I'm sorry, board. I was talking so much crap. Let me just go.
We must have hit a chord down there or something.
Yeah. Let me just go ahead and make sure that we are queued up. And let's try that again. All right, peeps. Oh, now it's not even.
No, it's not. It's not keyed up anymore. It's the original thing.
Okay, guys, we love you. We're gonna send you to just there. Wow, my board is not happy. All right, cool. Figured it out, man. Sunspots. It's all the sunspots.
Oh, you did figure it out. There it is. Look at that.
All right, peace out, guys.